Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
Namaste, konnichiwa. Welcome to the Nuputewari Show, episode number 14, presented by Heal Tokyo and Heal India. Today's guest, he writes, he speaks bravely, fearlessly, and he says, your name can be Ravi Thomas, your name can be Ravi Khan, and your name can be Ravi Pandey. But if you are talking and doing things against India, you are a criminal. Doesn't matter what name you carry. India is united. India is not for Muslim, not for Hindu, not for Christian. India is for Indians. So, with big applause, let's welcome Savio Rodriguez. Namaste, konnichiwa, Savio, and welcome to the Nuputewari Show.
Namaste, Nupur. Pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you so much for making time. And even from Kolkata, you are doing this. Thank you so much. We are really grateful. So, the first questions on behalf of all the viewers, we'd like to ask you that is Disha Ravi a mistake or a plan?
Nupur, thank you for having me on the show. You've asked a very pertinent question. The question is Disha Ravi wrong in dissenting against the government with regards to the farm laws? The answer, no. She's not wrong within the rights of the Constitution of India to have a difference of opinion to what the government farm laws are all about. But I'll tell you where I have a concern with youth like Disha Ravi. You might have had a problem, and you have laws and the courts and the judiciary and the certain rights that you're granted within the country to address your grievances within the country. When you go to a third party, in this case, Greta Thunberg, and become a part of the toolkit initiative that she starts in order to draw international focuses of the in India, farmer problems in India, you are allowing for foreign interference into an issue that can be resolved in India itself. And the government, numerous dialogues, has wanted to resolve the issue with the farmers from day one because some of the farmers have genuine concerns. But what has happened is that the protest appears to be hijacked by people who have got a Khalistani movement initiative going on. There are anti-nationals that have hijacked the protest because what happened at the Red Fort on January 26th, Republic Day, was not an act of the citizens of India. It was an act of hooliganism, it was an act of anarchy, and it was an act to show the rest of the world that the capital city of India is controlled by by a bunch of protesters claiming to be farmer protest, and the Indian government can't do much about it. So while Disha Ravi has a right to, to go to court, the Delhi police has a right to investigate the connections between Disha Ravi and the alleged anti-national and Khalistan movement. She has got bail, and that is what the law allows you. So there's nothing unusual about it, or there's nothing victorious about it. She's not been acquitted of the allegations leveled against her, right? So the investigation will continue, and if she's innocent, she will come out. If she was guilty, she needs to be punished because you cannot be working with anti-nationals to destabilize India on any front. Now, with regards to the farmers, I'll tell you where the farmers' protest is not in them wanting to protest. The farmer protest is wrong in them infringing on the rights of other people, other citizens, by blocking the roads, by causing an inconvenience. So the same rights, fundamental rights applicable to you for freedom of expression and freedom of speech is also applicable to the other citizens for the rights given to them. So you infringe on their rights by blocking roads, and that's not done. You have designated places that you can go to protest. You have the law that you can take to give you justice. Why do you have to inconvenience other citizens? So when you choose to inconvenience and block roads and create havoc, your intent is not to solve the problem. Your intent is to aggravate the problem and only cause shame and destabilization of India in the long run through media perception, through fear. That's exactly what they want to do. So in all this, genuine farmers' concerns get lost, and the anarchy, the chaos, the protest takes a larger frame. In the long run, is the farmer right in wanting certain changes of the law? If he's not understood the law, if he feels that there's a little uh, misunderstanding in it, then he has every right to sit with the government and ask for certain changes in the law. But I think what has happened is that today farmers are so confused, the genuine farmers who had the problems earlier, that they are now become a part of what is seen as an anti-national movement. But I believe it will get resolved. I think the government has understood that some genuine farmers have some concerns, so their fears need to be allayed, and they need to be, cushioned and told that it's not to be something to be worried about. As far as the anti-national and Khalistani movement is concerned, well, they will continue to try. The enemies of India will continue to try. So we have to stand united and understand that the narrative is against India. People think the narrative is against Narendra Modi. People think the narrative is against certain aspects of the BJP answers. No, the narrative is against India because the farmers become a very crucial element in the entire growth prospects of India. Now, one of the biggest problems I see is that with the new farm laws, most of the transactions will be digitized and tracked. Okay, so they would have to have things in the bank. They would have digitization of payment of money and all. That completely kills the black market because the farmer circuit, not necessarily the farmers themselves, but the middlemen work in a lot of the gray area. That's one serious problem. I think they are worried about because what will now be considered to be trackable income. So everything else seems to be driven out of that fear that what is traditionally a cash and carry model may no longer be a cash and carry. That's one of the biggest fears to the lobby around.
So, Sabir, here actually we can see that from 2014 we have been having a lot of this kind of movement wherever something change is coming. Like it started from Award Boxy, which we had never seen before 2014. So, what do you think as a journalist? Like why these movement, if you call it, or this protest are happening since 2014? And I think you can see that still Sahin Bagh, then the farmer protest is going on, everything. Why it started since 2014?
Nupur, you must understand a bit of the psychology of politicians in India. And more importantly, with regards to our current Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. Narendra Modi had been a very successful chief minister as far as Gujarat is concerned. But more important than that, Narendra Modi is not an aristocrat. Narendra Modi's come from humble beginnings. And he's a boy from Gujarat, has made it big in national politics and now international politics, right? He has been a success story. It's one of the reasons I like him because he is a rags to riches story. You may agree, you may disagree with his policies, but he certainly has the intent of a better India in his mind. If you look at all the other political families around, and they are propagated young generation, like the Congress with Sonia Gandhi now propagating Rahul and Priyanka Gandhi, whether it's the SP political party, the Samajwadi Party, whether it's the NCP. You see, these are all the same political families, and they are political, and their children coming forward for politics, right? That was not Modi. Modi was a nobody. Modi was a chai wala. So there is this psychological problem, which I consider the aristocracy. That aristocracy is what is upsetted because of that feeling that this domain is our domain space, and no person who's a nobody can come into. Because Narendra Modi, in actuality, is the story of a nobody. He doesn't come from lineage, political lineage is what I mean. So the aristocrats in Delhi, the political aristocrats in Delhi, the business houses in Delhi, who control the politicians, are terribly upset that he came into power. And to come into power the second time on a huge margin. So, in order to destabilize, they realized that under Narendra Modi, the, India is seeing a very different kind of a progress. At least if they've not arrived at that progress, at least they are planning and thinking of that kind of a progress to become a global, destination of economic growth and social growth. So to be globally competitive with the top five nations in the world, they didn't expect that kind of support to Narendra Modi. They didn't expect that kind of growth that Narendra Modi, this, winning the election the second time with the majority. They never expected that. The only way to destabilize India and the growth story of India is to destabilize Narendra Modi. They are not against the BJP. Let me be very clear in what I'm saying. It's not a Congress versus BJP, opposition versus BJP. No, the problem is with Narendra Modi. It's a classic. I keep saying that people, when I talk about in this manner, they think I'm being, just childish. But no, it's not. It is a psychological problem. It's just like a rich kid not wanting to see a poor kid succeed. It's exactly that. I mean, have you seen the statements people like Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi has made against Prime Minister Modi? Some of the statements that the Congress have made, some of the statements other political parties have made. What have they achieved in life? Can Rahul Gandhi tell me what has he achieved in life other than the legacy of his family? Narendra Modi doesn't come with the legacy, and that's what I like about it. I like the fact that it's a story that every simple, common citizen of India can aspire to become the prime minister if they have the dedication, the patience, and the devotion to that goal. That is what has upsetted these people. They've upsetted that somebody from outside their cartel has come into Delhi and made a success out of himself. It's pure hatred.
So beautifully you said, Savio, that your dedication and your hard work can take you to anywhere. Whether you agree with the person Narendra Modi or not, this is totally different. But the thing is, Narendra Modi is an example for the rest of the world, that starting from nowhere and reaching to the top, even international politics, such a beautifully. And this is the I want today's youth, whether they agree with our honorable prime minister's all the things he is doing or not, doesn't matter, but the person himself is such an example for the rest of the country, for the not only country, I would say internationally, for the rest of the world. And here we need to learn, because I feel, pity on them. Then they just start, because they don't like, that's why they start hating him. But so many things people who, especially youth, can learn from him. As you said rightly, I would like to emphasize there that your hard work and dedication can take you to the top.
Nupur, you have to look at it from this way. If you look at the political scenario in India, And if you look at the business scenario in India also, because I'm an entrepreneur myself, right? What was traditionally domains of the rich class, okay, traditional business families who may have also grown from nothingness, or were wealthy and then set up businesses of their own. I'm asking people to look at this fact that this is a boy who grew up in what would be, very poor beginning, and then he's worked his way up. He's come into the RSS. RSS is a very, very strong organization, a very dedicated organization, and it's not an easy organization to grow. You have to be exceptional to grow. Okay. And he continued, he worked his way up the ladder. He performed as far as Gujarat is concerned. You might bring everything about the Gujarat riots, etc., etc. Yes. But the fact of the matter is, he's done more in Gujarat than any other prime minister ever has done in most other states in the country. Right? So he had a vision. Now, when he took that vision and went beyond to the center, you are seeing a reflection of that vision. Okay. So that is why today there is a respectability towards India coming to some of the policies that Narendra Modi has made. Now, you don't have to agree with everything. Neither do I. There are some issues I don't agree with Narendra Modi. But you cannot fault him with the intent of wanting to have a better nation, a better India. At least let's collectively, even that's what I tell the youth, you might disagree with him, but collectively, if our intent is the same, then maybe we can correct it. Even if he's wrong, he will be open to listen to that kind of correction. But to fault him and to brand him as somebody that is fascist and wants to destroy the harmony in the country, I think that's absolutely rubbish. Narendra Modi really doesn't have time to waste on that. He's on a very clear economic, social change, and and we might not understand some of it, but we are smart enough to understand most of it. So the youth in India is actually trying to, if if they had to look for a model, Modi is a better leader. Even to consider Rahul Gandhi as a role model would be an insult to your intelligence.
Exactly. Somewhere I just saw, it is not for Rahul Gandhi. Somewhere I just saw that because of you know the Dhritarashtra in Mahabharata, he did not think about the country. He thought about his only love for his son, and
Correct.
he made him the king because of the love, just for
You
love. He wanted him to be king.
um, and I'm primarily talking about a message if Rahul Gandhi is listening to what I'm saying. You see, I'll tell you what is the issue with an individual like Rahul Gandhi. You're in a position, and because of the legacy that you carry from having been in a political family for since the onset of the independence of India, you have that power, and with great power comes great responsibility. And that responsibility is needs to be to address the issues of the country. Now, in a democracy, to keep the ruling working strongly, focused, and on its toes, you need a good opposition. An opposition that feels and believes in as much as India as the ruling does, right? And that is where the failure of the opposition is happening in the country. Because the opposition is turned out to be absolutely whining monkeys on issues that they should have spearheaded rather than commenting in a ad hoc, childish, no solution manner. You see, Rahul Gandhi has not provided any solution whatsoever to any of the problems that he has raised on the government. Now, if Rahul Gandhi provided those kind of solutions, then people would gravitate to him and say, okay, here is somebody who's talking sense, and here is somebody who's putting the nation first rather than being more of a bickering individual saying that Narendra Modi has done this, BJP has done that, they are spreading hate around. I will spread love. How have you spread love around? By jumping into the sea with fishermen. By saying that you don't have a ministry of fisheries when we clearly have a ministry of fisheries. Is that how you spread love? Where is your intelligence? So the problem with people like Rahul Gandhi and people who are nepotist of politics, they think it's their birthright that the country should be run by them because well they come from political legacy, and that is what Narendra Modi did. Narendra Modi said, your legacy ki aisi ki taisi, India will now serve, and it doesn't matter what legacy you come from, it's what you serve the country about. So Rahul Gandhi still has a chance to do something good. But you know what? I don't think he will do anything good. Neither would anybody in the Congress, simply because they are attacking Narendra Modi. They should be talking about India and how India should be better. Because for India to progress, you need good ruling and good opposition. And Rahul Gandhi and team are absolutely not the kind of opposition this country requires. Opposition of whiners is not an opposition at all.
Exactly. Very rightly you said, Savio. And again, I'm going back to the youth where we started from, Disha Ravi. So this is, I think, do you think today's youth, definitely Disha Ravi doesn't represent the entire youth of India, but at least some youth are following her. So do you think our youth are confused? Because I see today what is happening, even some of the youth here in Japan also, they are against India because they don't like Narendra Modi. Do you think today our youth, they are confused? Like, not entire, again I'd like to say, definitely some youth, they're confused. They are becoming against India because they don't like Narendra Modi.
Well, Nupur, I think Disha Ravi is not exactly an example of the youth in India. She is a percentage of the youth. Now, I know many young youth who are serving in the army. I know many young youth who are serving as doctors, engineers, police officers, young startup entrepreneurs. You know, people who are doing and giving a lot of their own selves to making the country better. I'm not saying Disha Ravi is a bad person. I don't know her personally. And I'm glad she started an NGO to do something for climate change, and she must pursue that. But like I said, it's like a family. Okay, I've always look at the country as a family, and we're all brothers and sisters of the same mother, right? So if there's a problem with the family, that problem needs to be solved within the family. Is the youth being disillusioned by what is happening around? Of course, a lot of them would have questions. A lot of them would be confused. But most of them, I have realized since this government has come into power, believe in the idea that India can be resurgent again. That India's moving forward to a very progressive spot in the global economics and global politics and global social indexes. But some will continue to have that apprehension. But you can't answer everybody, right? You can't be good to everybody. Some people have to understand that in some decisions that are being taken, you might not see the whole picture. It's like a mother deciding that a child must not put her finger inside the socket, the electric socket, right? The child, being a child, is always curious to put his finger inside the electric socket, right? Let's assume the mother doesn't care and says, okay, let my child do what my child wants to do, and the child puts his finger inside the electric socket. What do you think happens to the child? He gets a shock, and in worst scenario, he could die, right? It's the same with running a government. Sometimes the government takes decisions that the child or the citizen might not understand. But if they want an understanding of what decision that the government is taking, then they can't come throwing temper tantrums at the government. You can't come to your parent or your mother and start screaming and yelling and throwing things around the house and destroying your own property, can you? So children must also, just like in a house, parents and elders tell children to behave and let's discuss and resolve issues in a civilized manner. It's the same thing with a country, right?
True,
It's the same thing.
true.
So I'm saying today, if the youngsters have a problem with Narendra Modi, who's leading the government and leading this nation, then he's not closed his doors to listening to you, right? But if you're going to be like a child, imagine this scenario. There's a mother at home and a father at home, and there's this child, and he takes things and he throws things around, and he's yelling and screaming, and it's gaining a lot of the neighbors' attention. And the neighbors wondering what's happening in this family because the child is throwing a temper tantrum. What do you think the parents should do? In normal Indian culture, the parent would probably give the child, a whack on his buttocks or her buttocks, or in the most liberalized sense, they would have grounded them. You can talk civil, right? You can behave civil. Not every decision of your mother and father has ever been appreciated by you as a youth. Your mother would have told you don't go to a party and you would have yelled back. But civilized people don't do that. Civilized people accept certain decisions or talk their way out of it. But coming on the road in Shaheen Park, protesting in the JNU colleges and other aspects of it, destroying public property, burning buses, burning cars, that's destroying your own home. Have you paid for those cars? Have you paid for those buses? They're somebody else's hard earned money, right? The government buses might have your tax to take care of it. What about the other people's cars and bikes? Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for the destruction of the property? So if you think you're like animals, then you get treated like animals. So the youth of the country must know that they are the most promising aspect of this country, and all of us, including me, who's seen the youth life. I believe we are creating a future for our children. My kids are youth right now, 14 and 13. I want to create a better India for them. But if they are going to choose to destroy their own future, then I have to set it right for them. I can't allow them to destroy their future under what liberal policy you might say. They have a right to choose their life. Of course, they have a right to choose their life. But we cannot allow our kids to go to a path of destruction, right? It's the same with the country.
Very, very rightly you said, Savio. And this is, I'm sure that viewers, they're going to learn a lot of things because, yeah, as you said, as you described, this is a family. Yes, family. And if you have problems, go and discuss. But you cannot just destroy the property of family. Yeah, this is end of the day. It is you. Yes, you are the only one person. Maybe you paid tax, but other thousands they paid tax as well. So you don't have any right to break and destroy the properties what other people also contributed there.
Let me ask you a question. In any of the protests that has happened in the country in the recent times, have any of the protesters burned their own bikes and their own cars?
So this is the question for all the
No,
viewers who are watching. Have you ever heard or have you ever seen those protesters, have they burned their own cars or bike? This is, I think, all the viewers should write their comment. I think this is a very eye opener thing. Very good question, Savio.
they
Not
don't.
only
They
rest of
don't.
the country.
So let's assume this situation. I have parked my car. I have nothing to do with any of the protests happening on the road. I just coincidentally parked my car, and these bunch of protesters protesting for whatever reason under the sun decide to burn my car. Of course, I will have insurance to claim. But who gives him that right to do that? Can I then not go and burn his car in his own house? That is exactly what these people are doing. They are trying to instigate by destroying property so that people within the country get instigated and further violence and chaos happens. When a child goes wrong, Nupur, it is the responsibility of the elders of that family to set that child right in the means that are available legally to them. Because we cannot allow our home, we cannot allow our family, and we cannot allow our children to go astray. The Narendra Modi government is actually working towards reforms that are needed and were much needed in this country. You might not agree with all of them, I'm repeating myself. But just like in a family, you dialogue, you understand what's happening. You arrive at a consensus, and then the head of the family takes the decision in the interest of the family. It is respected and you move on. Do you think a parent could ever leave a child, even if they are old, like 40, 50 years of age? Even today, I'm in Calcutta. My mother calls me every morning. Stay safe, son. Stay safe, son. Why? Am I not an adult? But she will care, right? She'll want to know how the welfare of my stay in Calcutta is, what food I'm eating, have I got my security in place, all that. And that's what a family does. So what you see in these protests and this behavior is a very deviant anti-family behavior. It's not even anti-national. Because if we believe we are in a family, it's an anti-family behavior. And that's not the way for a country to progress. So if they have to be treated by the law in a harsh manner, just in case like Disha Ravi, then I have no problems with that. I'm saying please do it. Do it across political parties. Anybody that works to destroy the fabric of the Indian family, which is our nation, must be treated in the same manner by the laws of the land.
Okay, so I think all the viewers, especially the youth who are watching today, and I think this is a very good eye opener for everyone that this is a family, and you are definitely, if you're doing wrong, the family has power and right to teach you a lesson. So this is a family. We have to be united, as you said, that we have to be united because we have to create better India for our future generation.
I agree, Nupur. You see, the most important thing is even these protesters, whichever caste, creed they come from, they are ours only. Disha Ravi is one of ours.
Exactly.
She's one of us. So it's like my if my daughter wanting to go for a particular program with her friend, and I say no to her. Of course, I'm going to expect a certain reaction from her. But if I sit down and explain myself, and she explains herself on the need to be in this particular place, we can arrive at some way forward through the problem. But if my daughter decides to take and start throwing things around the house, there is not a hope in hell that I'm going to allow her to go for that party, right? Because you have behaved in a manner that's unbecoming of the family. And that is what the youth need to understand, that today you are all one of us. We are all Indians. Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Parsis, Jains. These are all these are mere baggages we carry of religious and caste. But the real roots between all of us is India. Is the roots of Mother India in you, Bharat Mata's roots in you. So we don't need to allow somebody from the outside, a neighbor from the outside, to tell us how to run our country. We can solve our issues ourselves. What is the need for a Greta Thunberg to get herself involved? What does Rihanna have to do with India? If you came with people from India itself and brought your problems out, we can understand. But because you have taken it out to the neighbors, because you want to make our family look bad, then it is the duty of every other citizen to ensure it doesn't happen to you. And that is why there's this huge revolt on social media and other forms of media against people who turn to international sources for help, make India look bad.
True. Exactly. We did not need Rihanna or Mia Khalifa or Greta. because we have so much youth inside us, we have so much population, we are
What is the success of Mia Khalifa or Greta Thunberg or even Rihanna? What is their success compared to the youths in India? Compared to the
actually Savio, they don't care.
correct.
The most
We
important thing
should
is
not
they
care.
don't care.
Most importantly, we should not care. Has anybody thought about a soldier that died a couple of weeks ago on the border? Did they care about him? Is that what the youth wants to care about, which is Rihanna? They want to care about the Bollywood nonsense that goes on? What about the soldiers dying? What about those doctors, the young doctors fighting for the COVID in the country? What about those cleaners who are young cleaners sweeping your roads and ensuring that it's clean? Do they not deserve respect just because somebody is glamorous, somebody is seen on an international stage or Bollywood stage? Do they deserve that respectability? What have they achieved? What have they done for the country? Have they taken a bullet for the country like the soldier on the border? Have they stood on the road like a young police officer directing traffic day in and day out in the heat of the sun? So the youth of India need to understand that they need real role models. Bollywood and Hollywood is not the role model for India.
Such a such an eye opener. This all the words of yours, Savio, for the youth of India, and especially those also who are outside India, and they are a bit confused. I think this is the time to be united with the family and great Indian family, because as you said, that doesn't matter what religion or what faith you follow. This is, we all are the most important thing, we all are one family, and that is a great Indian family.
Right.
So such a great message, Savio. So with this, I would like to end today's interview with the hope that we will be having you again and again, and you will just keep giving me a lot of knowledge for us, spread this Indianness among youth. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Namaste, and thank you so much. So everyone, that was today's episode number 14 with Savio Rodrigues, and I'm sure you have started seeing patriotism and nationalism from different perspectives. So I will come next week, next Saturday, with another dynamic guest, but I will see you tomorrow too, because we have another episode, Shakti Women Who Fought Odds, and tomorrow's guest is amazing lady. So I would like to request you all, please watch tomorrow's episode too. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, do take care of yourself. Do love yourself too. Good night. Subratri Vesminasai. Namaste.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.